I'm going to introduce our speaker, Marv Shepard. He has conducted research on drug importation, drug counterfeiting, and drug diversion for close to 20 years. He is currently the director of the Center for Pharmacoeconomic Studies, College of Pharmacy, University of Texas, Austin, Texas, and is also the president of the Partnership for Safe Medicines. The NeedyMeds and the Partnership for Safe Medicines have been partners for a while. It's an organization dedicated to fighting counterfeit medications, drug diversion, and informing health professionals and consumers about fake, substandard, and diverted drug products. In 2010, Marv Shepard was appointed to the Drug Packaging and Distribution Committee of the United States Pharmacopoeia. Today, we are going to have information about how to buy medications online safely and affordably. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Marv. Are you ready to go, Marv?
I'm ready to fly here. Yep.
Okay, take it away.
Thank you. I hope everybody's doing well. Got a pleasant day here in Texas, and I don't know, you guys are spread all over the country, but it's a good day here in Texas. So if my accent gets you, it's probably because I've changed a little bit over the number of years I've been in Texas, but it's fine. One thing I want to point out right off the top, my email is on there, marvshepard@austin.utexas.edu. You feel free to send me an email anytime you like about questions about pharmaceuticals or buying medications online or counterfeit pharmaceuticals, FDA or pharmaceutical pricing, any of that kind of stuff. You have a question over it, please don't hesitate to give me a buzz. Send me an email and I'll be glad to get right back to you. I get a lot of them a day, and I enjoy doing the work. And so we'll get started here. Okay. So in the United States, we have a unique drug distribution system. It's referred to as a very tightly closed, secure supply chain. And that is because it is so regulated by FDA, the Food and Drug Administration at the federal government level, and states regulated, and other governmental agencies got their fingers in it. But it's really tightly controlled. And it's tightly controlled from the drug manufacturers all the way to the wholesalers, even the transporters, on how the drugs are packaged and shipped are controlled. And the transporters and the wholesalers and drug manufacturers got to follow some very tight rules. And down to the pharmacists and the pharmacies, the nurses and the physicians, and they're all tightly controlled through the state regulations. Pharmacies are state regulated and licensed, and pharmacists are state regulated and licensed along their lines. So we've got a lot of people involved in the regulatory process, and it includes not only prescription drugs, but also includes over-the-counter drugs. FDA approves all drugs that are supposed to be used in the United States will be FDA approved. And that's the problem quite often with drug importation or buying off of line, because the drugs are not FDA approved. So FDA inspects all drug manufacturing facilities and approves the process of manufacturing the drug. Let's walk over that. It says, now, even though the drug may be manufactured in, let's say, in India, FDA has inspectors who will inspect the process of that manufacturing plant, inspects how it's made under the guidance of how the drug was approved and the manufacturing that's employed by it, and then inspects the product that comes out of that plant before it's allowed to come into the United States. So any break in this system endangers patients, and America is one of the few countries with a closed, secure drug supply chains, and I really believe it's probably the safest in the world. It's very safe compared to some other countries. So how do patients are endangered from the supply chain breaks? The most common way this distribution chain is broken is by the patients themselves. They're buying online from non-VIPPS pharmacies or verified internet pharmacy provider sites. That's what it stands for, the VIPS pharmacy sites. And when they buy from online from these non-verified internet pharmacy provider sites, that's when you get endangered. So that sometimes they buy from offline non-pharmacies in the United States and outside the United States. And sometimes they travel and bring back drugs from, for example, from Mexico. Some of those will probably not be approved, and they'll probably be changed over a period of time. Less common way is pharmacists and physicians and distributors buying from unlicensed distributors. It does happen, but it's not real common. We've had a couple cases in the last couple of years where clinics had bought online drugs from rogue websites, from fraudulent wholesalers. And the manufacturer and supply chain producers, that's less common too. That's very uncommon unless you go off and look specifically for a counterfeit or a rogue manufacturer somewhere along the line. So is your online pharmacy safe, your web-based pharmacies? Some are safe and some are not safe. But NABPs may sell fake and dangerous drug products, and these websites are listed as not recommended. NABP is a National Association of Boards of Pharmacies, and they list a lot of sites that are not recommended for use. And there's also another program, I don't know why this keeps popping up, but AwareRx Consumer Protection Program website is referred to as the rogue sites. They list out some rogue sites, or those less than regulated sites out there. So NABP has analyzed thousands of websites selling prescription drugs and found numerous examples where the ad is illegal, it's deceptive, with some very common characteristics. We found out it's been estimated that 1 in 6 Americans buy drugs online, some of them without a prescription. We pose further problems, which I'll talk about later. What are the dangers of buying drugs from these non-regulated websites? And some, quite often, as a consumer, you don't know they're regulated or they're not regulated. Now we'll talk just a little bit later about that. But they sell fake or contaminated products. They like to take your money. They like your credit card number. They like your personal data, which they can sell. They very seldom have a domain name that's registered. They operate their site on a server located in another country, and they usually do not post a physical address or a good telephone number, a landline telephone number in some of these sites. In some of the investigations we did here, the site could be located in South America. The drugs are coming from India, but the money is going through Pakistan. So they got this convoluted route of where products are coming from, and they could come from a lot of different countries, but the site where it's located at, the actual pharmacy site, is nowhere to be found on the website anywhere. I mean, it just disappears. Sites offer foreign unapproved drug products. These sites may be difficult to track, as I said. They're reviewed. When the rogue websites review or offer foreign drugs, the drugs are not approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration, our FDA. And the rogue sites don't have a physical address, as I mentioned, on the website. And the sites do not offer any secure ordering, so they're not encrypted sites. So when you put that credit card number in, just about anybody can get access to it, and they sell that number out to other vendors along the way. So the sites sell prescription drugs without requiring a valid prescriptions. About 88% of them do that. So you don't need a valid prescription. You just order it. Hopefully it's the correct drug that they send to you. And 60% of the rogue sites reviewed dispense medications to consumers who respond to an online questionnaire only. Quite often you'll see these sites fill out this questionnaire, and we'll see if you're eligible or you're a potential user of the pharmaceuticals. They busted an online site, a rogue site down in San Diego, and the guy had that same type of questionnaire on it. And he was known as the Viagra King. He was getting his Viagra, counterfeit Viagra, out of Mexico with no active ingredient in it. He also got it out of India with no active ingredient in it. And then he collected all the questionnaires, but he never read them. No, he didn't employ a physician to read them, nothing. He just put it on there as to deceive the consumer that came up with it. So 12% of the rogue sites reviewed illegally sold controlled substances, the Oxycontin, the Vicodin, all the painkillers are out there quite often. They sell those. So here are some of the sites, like this one, Canadian Neighborhood Pharmacy. Looks like a legitimate neighborhood pharmacy. I'll talk about that in a second, but it's probably not even located in Canada, most likely. Twitter, you can get online drugs to the Twitter without a prescription. All kinds of deceptive pharmaceutical ads where they say generic Propecia, generic Cialis. Right now, generic Cialis and generic Viagra is not legal in the United States. Matter of fact, generic Cialis shouldn't be legal anywhere in the world because it's a patented drug. It's illegal to make that drug by the patent authorities. So here's an example of a Global Pharmacy Canada website.
Marv, we've had a suggestion from our users that if you click the bottom instead of the X, it won't come up again.
Okay, we got it. Now another one pops up.
All right, folks. Well, so just ignore those pop-ups. Marv's computer's just
I'm trying to figure
annoying him. Maybe just keep the current color scheme and don't show the message again. Try that next time. Okay.
And
sorry to interrupt you, Marv. Go ahead.
No, I need all the help I can get. I can figure it out. Can't do two things at once.
That's right.
So I got this flyer in the mail a few years ago, and as a matter of fact, I got another flyer from them not too long ago, and I received this flyer from a pharmacy website located in Mississauga, Ontario. So I got on the phone and called Ontario Board of Pharmacies to find out where is this pharmacy located at, and is it licensed? And the Board of Pharmacy in Ontario says we don't have any pharmacy by that name. We don't have any pharmacy in our licensing statistics that show that address up on it. So it's an online pharmacy, not legitimate pharmacy in Canada. And then further, they found out, I was reading the brochure, it says the brochure states send us a fax or a copy of the original prescription, or you can send a copy, a picture of the pill bottle or label, or you can send us a detailed pharmacy receipt or invoice. And then I said, well, there's got to be some problems here with that kind of verbiage. So, problem. My gosh.
I think they want, it's the next time it happens, Marv, click the keep the current color scheme.
Okay, I'll do
that. Okay.
Yeah, appreciate
You're welcome.
it. But on further looking at this site, I found out they were offering most of the generic drugs. And they were all generic drugs. You know, for example, you can look at the top and it says Lipitor at that price. Well, at this time when the thing comes out, Lipitor is a patented medication. They were making an illegal generic product of it. So, in matter of fact, I think it was like 86% of the drugs they offered was for the generic site. Well, finally, the Canadian Online Pharmacy ordered to close the Ontario operation amid revelation. It wasn't stationed in Ontario, even though it had an Ontario address. It was stationed in Belize, Central America. And so they finally said, let's close it down. And Health Canada finally did and closed it down, so now you can't get access to it in Canada or anywhere else along the way. But I did get a notice from Global Pharmacy Operation down in Belize. It's an operation. So buying meds online isn't like buying socks or even buying shoes or buying clothes or watches or anything else. They even sell over-the-counter drugs, in which it's still a medicine, and over-the-counter drugs can be pretty dangerous if you're not careful on how you use them, and especially acetaminophen products right now. This drug is an over-the-counter drug. It's called Ally. It had the wrong active ingredient in it. It's supposed to have orlistat in it, and the counterfeit product contains sibutramine, which has been known to cause some complications with people taking cardiac medications. So victims purchased over-the-counter weight loss medication from this website is listed there, and the purchasers reported many life-threatening side effects, and 2 people were convicted in 2011 of selling the drug in the United States. So where did the distributors of the counterfeit drugs get their fake drugs? Most of the fake drugs right now are coming from outside the United States. They're not manufactured in the United States. And we've had a couple manufactured here, but that's been a good decade ago. Very few are manufactured here. The number one producer of counterfeit drugs is China, and number two is India. Although we get them out of Pakistan, Turkey, Mexico, Colombia, Russia, and Indonesia. All those countries have huge problems with counterfeit drugs. For example, Russia, about 20 to 22% of all the drugs sold in Russia are counterfeit, fake drugs. And I haven't defined what a counterfeit drug is, but a counterfeit drug could have the active ingredient and could not have the active ingredient. It may have no active ingredient, and then it may have the wrong quantity of active ingredient. And it's made to deceive people. It looks like the real thing, but it isn't the real thing. The packaging looks real, the product looks real, it looks authentic, but it's not the real thing. It's made to deceive and fraudulently fool you. That's what it's made to do, to think that you got the real thing. It's sort of like a fake Rolex watch or a fake polo shirt or a fake Reebok shoes that they're made to look good, but they're not the real product in itself. And pharmaceuticals are a little dangerous when you buy them that way, because you expect the real thing and you're not getting the real thing. So they're not made in the sterilist environments either. There's some pictures, like here's one picture of used vials. They collected used vials and they put their counterfeit antibiotic into the used vial. It was made in Colombia, another counterfeit lab busted there. Fake drugs from China busted in Egypt. Viagra made in Egypt looks pretty clean and sterile there. I'm not too sure I want to buy anything from these organizations and how they're ingested. As I said, they look like the real thing. Here's a fake Lipitor, an anti-cholesterol drug. The fakes on the right and the Lipitor is on there. There's very little difference in them. And you can see at the top we got Celebrex at the very top. Vicodin. You got a lot of different fake products, and the packaging looks real too. They use the right packaging. They copy it off their copiers. They go to the printers and they copy it. It's interesting to see on the guy's work. Fake Adderall came in the United States. Tramadol with acetaminophen came in the United States. There's fake Vicodin. In one case alone, that's like $95 million in fraudulent selling unapproved drugs to Americans. In one pharmaceutical agent getting into the United States. So it's an interesting scam that they pull, and they're very good at it. They're extremely good at it. So as your teenager or daughter buying contraceptions online without a prescription, you can certainly buy a lot of contraception devices online, and some of it's counterfeit and some of it's real. Matter of fact, this last week in Peru, they busted a counterfeit contraceptive plant there. It was making Plan B contraception with no active ingredient in it and selling in the United States. YouTube videos, cartoons, and teach IUD and implant insertion and removal despite the risk. And so they get active online, and they can buy just about anything you can think about in contraceptive online. Another real problem with buying drugs online is that you probably haven't seen a physician. That's one of the huge problems. You may have seen a physician a year ago to get the original prescription. It was probably filled at a licensed pharmacy. And then after time, some people say, I want to get it cheaper, so they buy online, where in fact they never been back to the physician or haven't seen the physician lately. And then it becomes dangerous. The dosage may have changed. The medication use may have changed. You may have added another medication to your existing regimen, so you may have a drug interaction possible. So you got this death of this patient was due to taking a painkiller medication at the wrong dose that she bought online. It was a sleeping medication. She bought on the ice without knowing the safety instructions that her physician or the pharmacist would have informed her of if she had purchased the drug from legitimate sources. So it's not exactly the safest way of getting. Doctors have been found to purchase misbranded and counterfeit drugs. Black market cancer drug cases have shown up across the country, and FDA has managed to send over 1,000 letters to physicians noting that counterfeit drug sellers are out there, and the fragile biologics that require in-clinic use and careful storage are becoming new targets for counterfeiters. The expensive biological agents would have to be refrigerated. They can't be shocked or shaken. They have to be really stored well in distribution chain. Remember I talked about earlier the distribution chain, how do you ship pharmaceuticals, whether it's cold storage, all the way from the manufacturer to the trucking to the wholesalers. And now these new biological agents out there, they have to be shock-proof in the packaging and how they're packaged to put on transport vehicles, whether they're trucks or airplanes, because if you just drop them, you could destroy the molecule in the vial. The counterfeit Avastin case, the cancer drug case, is an interesting case. The counterfeit is on the left. It came in the United States. And the authentic Avastin is on the right. Now, they contain no active ingredient. It used non-approved labeling. When you look at the product labeling, it was in French on one side and it was Arabic on the other side. So I'm still puzzled how a U.S. physician would dispense this drug when the U.S. law requires that all the labels have to be in English, and then they turn around and look at the label and see it's in French. Why wouldn't they raise the question? Is this a legitimate pharmaceutical, especially when you got two languages on the same label? And then you got the wrong company who manufactured the drug. It's labeled Roche manufactured this drug, and the only product approved in the United States for this drug is made by Genentech, not Roche. So the problem, the label itself had many errors in it, and I think it was 78 physicians' offices got this product and was dispensed to cancer victims, of cancer patients. Originally, the product came out of Istanbul, and it was sold to a contractor, not even a pharmaceutical wholesaler in Switzerland. The question mark in this slide shows that they don't really know where it came from. The rumor has that it came out of Egypt, but I'm not quite sure if that's true or not, or originally it was manufactured in Egypt. So it went to Turkey, went to Switzerland, then shipped up to Denmark, and then went into UK, United Kingdom, and then it was shipped into Gainesboro, Tennessee, through a buyer in Winnipeg, Canadian internet buyer through Winnipeg, Manitoba, which had offices in Belgrade, Montana. So there were a lot of people involved and got shipped, I believe, to 78 doctor clinics in the United States. It was a non-approved drug, and the drug was shipped to California, Texas, New York, and Florida to those clinics. And you can see where the authentic Avastin has here's an example of the closed distribution system. Number one, it's FDA approved. It's manufactured in Avastin, and it's only shipped to licensed carriers of the product. McKesson, CuraScript in California, ASD Healthcare in Frisco, Texas, and then there's two, Cardinal Health and Bessie Medical in Ohio. And then from there, those places it's shipped out to the physicians or doctors' clinics. That's the closed, authorized distribution system, instead of going through the other distribution system that the fake drug came through. Another example of a counterfeit case happened in Ontario in 2005 with a pharmacist who bought Norvasc, a heart medication, from a vendor who pulled up in a white van, and the pharmacist bought the product, which happened to be counterfeit product. The pills were made of talcum powder, not the active ingredient, with 11 people have died. The pharmacist got off on this one. Of all things, I cannot believe this myself. The pharmacist was acquitted by the court in 2011 because the prosecutors failed to prove criminal intent. I would have got the pharmacist for buying from an illegal wholesaler. See, well, they weren't licensed probably there. In the United States, you can't do that. It's a closed system. So he was sued and he sued the pharmacy board and got his pharmacy license back, and he's still practicing pharmacy today in Toronto, even though 11 people have died from the case. Fake drugs are all over the world. I'm going to divert here for a second. Remember I said that 1 in 5 drugs in Russia are counterfeit? We got countries where 40% of the drugs counterfeit. So 4 out of 10 are counterfeit in the pharmacies or where they purchase pharmaceuticals in some countries. Brazil has got a huge problem. It's about 1 in 3 in Brazil. South America is plagued with it. Africa is very plagued with the problem because they buy the cheap drugs and they sell them at flea markets, open air vendor markets across Africa, Nigeria, Cambodia, you name it, and it comes across them, especially anti-malarial drugs are being counterfeited. UK is the 5th most likely country in which you will find a counterfeit drug, which probably surprise you. England, so it's quite often. They had 70,000 packs of counterfeit life-saving drugs in pharmacies in the UK. Now back to the Canadian online pharmacies. Unless you drive over the border into a Canada brick and mortar pharmacy, all those products sold by the brick and mortar pharmacies when you drive across the border are approved by Health Canada. That's the legal distribution system. And Health Canada, which is equivalent to the United States FDA, has to approve the product. And so these companies are not regulated by Health Canada. The online pharmacies are not regulated by Health Canada or provincial pharmacy boards. They can, since they buy in the drug from other countries and are not selling it to Canadians, they don't have to have the drug approved by Canada. So it's kind of fascinating. So Canadian online pharmacies sell price-controlled medications from Canada. No, it's not price-controlled because they can't sell those drugs to Canadians. They can only sell them outside of Canada. And so in this example of Andrew Strempler in Metaplan operation he ran in Canada, he was finally arrested a few months ago in Miami. 90% of the drugs they seized from the Metaplan shipment were Lipitor, some high-use drugs, and all of them were fakes from all over the world that he was selling to primarily U.S. residents across the country. So they are cheaper? I don't think so. Generics are often cheaper in the United States versus the Canadian prices. So if you're looking to buy a cheaper drug in the United States, the first question you got to ask is, what's the generic price in the United States? That's the first question. 85% of all drugs dispensed right now are in generic form. So you can buy them in the United States in generic form. And they're much cheaper than the brand name drugs in Canada or in the brand name drugs in the United States. And you can look at the difference in the extra cost to patients from the Canadian RX versus what the Canadians say. Once in a while you'll find a drug that would be cheaper in Canada, but by far the generics in the United States are cheaper than what you can get in Canada. Can Canadian pharmacists legally fill American prescriptions? The answer is no. It's illegal for a Canadian pharmacist to use or to legally fill a prescription written by a U.S. physician. Unless that U.S. physician also has a Canadian license, then he can fill a prescription. He's got both licenses in countries, but he can't fill them. So your doctor can bill insurance back for imported drugs? No, they can't do that either because they're misbranded drugs. You can't bill the insurance company for a misbranded drug. Now, a misbranded drug is a drug that's mislabeled. It says it's made by Roche, and it's not made by Roche. It's made by Genentech, for example, or if it's made by another company, it's not approved in the United States. Any of the non-approved drugs used in the United States, it's illegal to bill your insurance company for that product. So how do I stay safe if I'm not in control of the medication where it comes from? Well, here are some signs you can look for. Signs of suspicious medications in the doctor's office. Look for foreign writing on the label. Ask to see the bottle or the bag or unit with a lot number and write it down, or take a photo of the label. That's a good idea with your cell phone. Take a photo of the label and you can check it when you get home. And pay attention to new or unusual side effects or therapeutic effects of the drug. I always tell physicians when I talk to them, the first question you should ask if the person's not responding to the drug is, where did they buy the drug? And sometimes it will take 6 months to 9 months to know the response of a drug. Take a cholesterol-lowering drug. It may take 6 months before your cholesterol comes back up high again. And so you were taking the original drug, you moved over to a counterfeit drug with no active ingredient, and now you go to the doctor's office and see your cholesterol goes up, and he thinks you're still taking the original drug, the authentic drug. Then you turn around, and what's he do? He does one or two things. He either changes the therapy to a different cholesterol-lowering drug, or he raises the dose of the initial drug. And now you got probably twice or more drug than you really need, when in fact you were taking a drug that didn't have any active ingredient, and that's why your cholesterol rose. So tell them where you're buying the drug from, and look for the benefits or the lack of the benefits of the drug, or the side effects of the drug. So how do you find discounts? The first place I would go to the NeedyMeds drug discount card site. That's the first place I would go. You could go to the Partnership for Prescription Assistance, help you find a program that's right, and they're all free of charge. When you do that, you can look up the drug and get the information of where's the cheapest place to go. And you can shop comparison from a pharmacyhelper.com, where it lists all the online, remember, the verified internet pharmacy provider sites. These are located in the United States. These are websites, and they're verified by the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy of good quality pharmacists and pharmacies. And you can compare the sites of the different internet pharmacy sites across the country on the prices of different pharmaceuticals. And you certainly can save money by buying FDA-approved generics, as I already mentioned. You can also compare shops locally. You can go to werx.com, loismeds.com, or goodrx.com to make sure your pharmacist knows all the medications you're doing when you're doing that. But you can go in there and look for the cheapest drugs at these three sites too, within your local community, so you can find out, because they will shop size. So, and we have a website called the Partnership for Safe Medicines. It's the safemedicines.org on the bottom of the screen. However, just found out this morning that some hacker got into the site and has put some problems with the site, and will probably be up later this afternoon. But right now, the site is down. But safemedicine.org offers some brochures and some things you can print out on counterfeit drugs, and where to buy drugs, and how to stay safe from counterfeit drugs. You're welcome to look at them and download anything you want you can off that site, because it's a consumer-friendly site, the Partnership for Safe Medicine site. So you're welcome to get all the literature you need off the site. So what can my patient organization do to educate our community? Well, we can help you develop a webinar like where this one is. We can provide the handouts to you, to your patient community. If you need them for a school board session, you need them for a health session or some kind of club, we'll be glad to do that. You can take one or more of the 26 tips, use Facebook's, Twitter, email, or print the newsletters we have. SafeMedicines.org offers a variety of newsletters that come out weekly that you can look on how to get the safest medications possible. So our members conduct joint educational projects. We can provide, go to your conventions or your meetings. We'll be glad to travel and give presentations on safe medicines to pharmacists, physicians, nurses, distributors, educators. And you can contact Sarah at safemedicines.org, and Sarah Ember will be glad to help you to provide the educational content. So
I really want to thank Dr. Marv Shepard for giving us this presentation today. We really appreciate it. Here at NeedyMeds, we're always trying to keep our users as informed as possible. We know a lot of them are looking for lower cost medications and need some help with their healthcare costs. So we hope that this webinar was informative for all of you. And again, thank you, Marv, and please visit our webinar page for upcoming webinars, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. So thank you so much.
thank you.